Why are humans so prone to focusing on our differences? What are the actual issues that can make relations between various communities so tense? Generally speaking, there's good news and there's bad news. Bad news first so we can get it out of the way. Many of these issues are hardwired into us and revolve around things we have little to no control over. The good news is that we have been working to overcome these issues for hundreds of thousands of years, and there has been a lot of hard-won progress. So long as we manage to keep ourselves from going extinct, we will keep working on them and we will keep making progress. Speaking of making progress, this channel has made some progress since I started it less than a week ago at the time of this recording of our 4th episode of Madness and Other Hobbies, and there's a lot you can do to help me keep making progress. Subscribe, like, and leave me a question or a comment below. Maybe follow the link in the description to see how you can help me with a research project I'm working on. I have a lot of ideas for other topics in psychological theory I am hoping to cover, so these videos are going to be coming out pretty rapidly for a while. Turn on notifications if you want to be one of the first people to see them. So, xenophobia, a combination of two ancient Greek words, xeno meaning stranger and phobia meaning dread. Both of them have other meanings as well I will talk about, as I promise to try and end this video on a positive note for a change. My last few have been real bummers, but I'm studying to be a psychologist, not a therapist. And there is a reason for that. If I was your therapist, we would both be in trouble. Anyway, xenophobia, stranger dread. Is it really good for anything? Our modern world often forces us to be both far more social than our ancestors ever had to be, and yet we're far more isolated as well. One of the approaches you can take in trying to understand xenophobia, or really any psychological phenomenon, is an evolutionary one. Even though we largely replaced biological evolution with cultural change a very long time ago. Now, it's easy to object. Humans aren't animals, but there's two problems with that. One, it's wrong, and B, it's also wrong. We are animals, subject to the same sorts of differential mortality that any animal is. It is sometimes wondered how much our ancient ancestors truly had the same sorts of social skills we take for granted nowadays. But Lord knows, anyone in America can tell you that the most tense dinner of the year is going to be Thanksgiving, when disparate branches of the family get together, drink heavily, and sometimes set their house on fire trying to deep fry a turkey. Which actually rarely turns out that well. Just roast the damn thing, people, okay? Anyway, who knows how well that would go if you threw in an ancient Sumerian, much less a few hunter-gatherers into the mix. It's like, yeah, I'm not coming this year. If there's anything we know about the world from the fossil record, is that people were probably even more prone to violence than they are now. They just didn't have assault rifles and nuclear bombs, neither of which you should bring to Thanksgiving. There may have been a survival differential for those of our ancestors who were less welcoming of the stranger than for those with open arms. Think about it. When Columbus made it to the New World, not realizing his intended destination was 9,000 or so miles away with a couple of continents and a really big ocean between them, he met the Taino Indians. He called them Indians, so I guess I have to as well. Us palefaces like to look stupid together, I guess. The Taino were like, hey, how you doing? Try a banana, it's high in potassium. And a couple of decades later, somewhere between half and 2/3 of the population of those two continents had died of smallpox before they ever laid eyes on a white man. Whether we instinctively knew it or not, unfamiliar peoples are much more likely to carry novel diseases we have no defense against. That is less true nowadays because we have vaccines. Or we used to. Moving on. But you wouldn't really need it to be a natural instinct. Variations in behavior are an inherent characteristic in any large animal. It kind of puts a whole spin on the idea that nice guys finish last. There's a very primordial part of the brain called the fusiform gyrus, and I am definitely feeling too sexy for my vocabulary today. I mean, we started with Greek. Though I tend to think we overestimate how well we understand the brain. From what we can tell, the fusiform gyrus is deeply involved not only in visual processing, but with our sense of familiarity. I'm talking about psychology right now, which I have spent lots of time paying attention to. And if you ran a brain scan on me right now, most of the activity would be up here in the prefrontal cortexes, which is where we do most of our rationally oriented cognitive work. But you would also see the fusiform gyrus lighting up because I am familiar with these ideas. The effect is so strong that people who suffer damage to the fusiform gyrus can develop a severe form of prosopagnosia, aka face blindness, where you will no longer recognize your own mother. There are milder forms of it. I read somewhere that Brad Pitt has face blindness, and I am sticking his name in the tags, and I got no apologies to anybody for doing that. In people with high self-reported levels of xenophobia, if you put them in a brain scan machine, which is a big machine, it's pretty expensive to do, which is why I don't have one in my apartment, and expose them to images which can trigger their xenophobia, you will see elevated activity in the fusiform gyrus. The brain is working differently in those folks, and we cannot say exactly why. However, it's almost certainly more complicated than that just they're bad people. Look, I hear you. You're like, that's great, Mac, but I ain't no hunter-gatherer, Sumerian, Taino person. I live in New York. What's that got to do with me? Well, let me do something I will almost never do, which is to share the title of one of my favorite scientific papers that I have ever read. And the reason I will almost never do this is because the titles of most scientific papers suck. Differential reforms towards greater legal compliance in relation to inchoate liability. That's one of mine. It's not easy to title these things, honestly, but this one is good. It's called The Thin Blue Waveform. It's a study of prosody. And prosody means the sum total of the way we use our voice. Timbre, volume, cadence, diction. Things we do largely subconsciously. Unsurprisingly, we have a tendency to try and match our prosody to whatever group we happen to be a part of. And one group of people you can be a part of is the police. Regardless of your original background, after joining the police, your prosody will change to sound more like a cop. And the thing is, nobody else sounds exactly like cops. When you're dealing with differential prosody, two people who have varying prosodies, there is a tendency to interpret the other person's words as possibly being hostile, particularly in tense situations, which is pretty much a cop's whole job. So, these conversations between the police and the public can wind up degenerating based on extremely subtle cues neither side is even aware of. I swear to God this is a true story, but this literally just happened to me. I think it may be part of why I picked this topic. I don't want to get into the backstory here of why I had a cop in my apartment. I didn't do anything wrong, and the cop even knew that, but there is a conflict involved, something I am really unhappy about. And the conversation started out more or less pretty polite, although when he knocked on the door, I was like, oh, okay, that's a cop, which I'm sure he wanted me to know. But it didn't go well at all. And that was how it worked. We each kind of pinged each other's hostility detector, and it stepped up and up until eventually I had a pretty pissed off cop stomping out of my apartment. And he was freaking huge, okay? He stopped before he came through that door because he might have had to duck. Huge guy. One of the things I think could have been a problem is that I'm just not a terribly easily intimidated person. And maybe he didn't like that so much. He didn't think I was sufficiently deferential. And that is not me bragging, because it has caused me more problems than I really need. Just sitting around my place, trying to chill out, terrible existential dread. Actual danger? Whee! Yeah, just face first right into that. Okay, so we're going a little long because I am telling stories So I'm sure we will talk about this more some other time, but I promise to end this on an upbeat note. Another translation of Xeno is guest. Little nicer, right? And okay, phobia, another translation is fear. But some of the best things life can offer us involve fear. That person you like, that you think is super cool and interesting and has great hair, you're probably going to be afraid of talking to them at first. But anybody can tell you, you're going to have to push through that, face the possibility of being rebuffed or screwing it up before you can have a relationship. I'm not a parent, but I know some folks who are, and there is a hell of a lot of fear in raising kids. There's also a lot of joy, too. Making a big commitment, trying new things, learning a new skill, all of those things involve a fear of some kind of otherness. When we finally get past this terrible phase this country is going through right now, and I have to believe we will, my hope is that we as a country and a community will push through that fear of otherness to come back together. And I have reason to hope. We have come a very long way since our ancestors moved in small, insular, and often violent bands of hunter-gatherers to build great cities, write great literature, and engage in the human project together. Thanks so much for watching this all the way to the end and participating in this project. Please like and subscribe, turn on notifications. I'm going to be doing lots of these for a while, although I think my voice needs a break. If you have other questions about psychology, ask me in the comments. I might even be familiar with the answer. Take care of yourself.